There's spooky things about quilting, such as Y seams and this haunted house we're in today. We gotta face our fears. We'll never know what we're gonna see today on the Quilt Show.
Welcome to the Quilt Show, everyone. We're coming to you today on location from Manitou Springs, Colorado, and we're going to be shooting in this bed and breakfast that you see behind us. Now, they say it's haunted.
That's right. It was built in 1912, and rumor has it, some of the guests have never moved out.
On a Ledge is indeed haunted, as the terminology goes. That, again, it's a question of what you believe, but we have too many folks that say absolutely there are permanent residents here. Bed and Breakfast at Historic On a Ledge was built in 1912 for the artisans of the Craftwood Inn. It was built as a place for them to stay and practice their craft. The greater fame of the house is it was sold to M.F. Yon as a guest house for the Rockledge house. That he created a beautiful set of gardens out back. Our permanent guest, that would be about those individuals that we have here. There's the grandfather figure, the lady of the house, the little boy in the outfit. All of these have been seen at On a Ledge. That folks enjoy it or they don't. I get the interpretation that they reside here as well, and as long as everybody else treats it as at home, that's just fine. We had a guest going through and taking photos of various rooms and wrote us and assured us, Brett, there was no one in the room, and snapped a photo. In fact, she actually hung on to it for close to 10 years because she didn't want to be accused of perhaps not being all together on this. Sent the photo, and it shows a little girl who, as if playing hide and seek, pops her head up over the top of the bed, and just as she snapped the photo. Fascinating, fascinating indeed. The architecture of the On a Ledge house is considered to be Tudor artisan architecture. As I say, I believe it to be a very country lodge type of feel. That's something that is much more casual than perhaps the same architecture of another house that we have, the Rockledge house. I have 5 guest rooms in the main house, and then there's one guest room called the carriage house down on the ground floor, which is exactly what it says it was. It was the old carriage house that they would drive the buggy around, unhitch the horses, and take them out, leave the carriage parked underneath the house. The design of the house, the copperwood fireplace, was built by the artisans of the Craftwood Inn. The rock fireplace with a deer head over it, the single rock slab that makes up the hearth of that fireplace is absolutely amazing in and of itself as to how did they get that there and how is it that it was placed in such a professional manner. The characteristics of the house that folks enjoy most would be the very laid-back atmosphere and yet very elegant setting. The gardens up above the grounds that they can tour and walk through and enjoy the peacefulness and the tranquility. The quietness of this atmosphere. We're away from the beaten path, and yet we're only a mile to downtown Manitou Springs. Would love to welcome the quilters, those folks that in that same mold as this house itself, creating things that are beautiful. They would thoroughly enjoy this atmosphere, and it would help bring about their imagination to do even greater works that would fit. Then they can leave them here with On a Ledge. We would love to have your work.
Well, Alex, I have to say, we have never shot the Quilt Show on a location quite like that, and we have no idea what might happen as the rest of the day rolls forward.
But I can assure you our next guest, Gyleen Fitzgerald, is wonderful. Nothing spooky about her. Welcome back. I have to say that this house speaks to me, not literally yet.
No, it is a beautiful place, and we've not had anything spooky happening to us yet. Although we have a little trouble sometimes getting from one place to the other and making things happen. So we don't know, but it's working. Today on the Quilt Show, we want to introduce you to a really, really fun quilter. We know that you're going to love what she has to say and what she has to share with you. It's Gyleen Fitzgerald. Gyleen, thank you for coming to the Quilt Show.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I want to say that Gyleen and I we met a couple years ago at Market.
Correct.
And it's just been so delightful watching you build this delicious career uniting quilters.
Thank you. Thank you.
But let's talk a little bit about you, because I think that your day job is way on the other side of the spectrum from quilting. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. During the day, I work as a chemical engineer for the Department of the Army, and I do chem bio defense work.
Chem bio defense work. That sounds very spooky.
Well, it's not too spooky, but it's serious. It's serious work. Basically, our mission is to bring the warfighter home alive if he got slimed with a bad agent of some sort.
Well, we honor you for that. I mean, thank
you.
goodness for people like you.
Yeah, there's a whole team of us out there doing it, so we do our jobs.
So how'd you slip into the world of quilting?
Basically, I was always into fiber from a very young child, and it's just another division of what I do. I just can't keep my hands off of it. If it's fabric, I'm rubbing it.
Yeah, nice.
And
when you're working on your quilts, I understand that you think you can make a quilt that's 3 colors out of 100 fabrics?
Absolutely. Actually, the more colors, the more fabrics, the better. It's very hard to make 3 fabrics and 3 colors work, because that's where you get clashes. But if you put 100 colors of red in, you got a really good neighborhood.
I like that.
And so everything is kind of blending and nothing is standing out, and it's a more harmonious quilt overall.
Well, we're going to look at some of that when we look at your quilts. And let's talk about some of your quilts so everyone can see the kind of things that you do, because you really are rooted in tradition, but you put the contemporary spin on it.
Exactly.
And I love that.
So I've got a couple blocks here that turned into a magnificent quilt. Tell us about this quilt.
These are antique blocks. I'm guessing about 1930s, 1940s quilts. Blocks that were made. They were found in an antique shop in West Virginia. And I think the reason why they stayed there for so long is because when quilters saw them, they didn't really know what to do with them. And the edges are not quite right. So what I did was to build it up and to make it more harmonious. So basically adding my voice to a voice of a quilter some 50 years ago.
I like that expression, my voice to the voice of a quilter some 50 years ago. That's a lovely, lovely expression.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't take anything apart, so it stays as is. So if they cut the corners off, so did I. I left it alone. I didn't try to think I needed to be more perfect than they did or to correct their work. It was more to honor their work.
That's great. Now let's look at your basket quilt.
Okay, the basket quilt originally was made for my niece, and she didn't particularly care for flowers, so it became my quilt very quickly. And I don't have a problem with that, and she'll eventually get her own. But again, it uses an awful lot of fabrics, red specifically. About 50 plus reds are in the quilt. And it also, the reds to me give a little bit more hit. So it's a traditional basket quilt with 4 different or 5 different basket designs, all made from half square triangles. So it's very simple to do when you break it down into its smaller elements.
It's
and
really
here
beautiful.
there's some leftovers here.
Speaking of the half square
you
triangles.
know, when we make stuff, we don't tend to go from start to finish like in our lifetime almost, it feels like. So there was like a good 4 years where I didn't work on the center. And I was going from memory on what I was going to do for the flying geese. So I made zillions of half square triangle flying geese to find out they were the wrong size.
Oh, no.
So that's what I did with quote the leftovers that I made. So I ended up having to make more geese for the actual border.
It's the typical story of quilters. It's what we do.
Yeah.
It's like when you're sewing away, and your bobbin thread ran out 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
and you're chain
Exactly.
piecing, and it just keeps going.
And you're wondering why the machine is humming so well.
It happens. All right, let's look at your purple and green quilt and tell us, is that a Jacob's ladder?
Yes, it is a Jacob's ladder, and it's a kind of eclectic Jacob's ladder, but it's very simple, and it just uses 2 fabrics per block, that is. But as I ran out of fabric, I don't worry about pre-calculating everything at the beginning, because I don't know how big it's going to be. So as one fabric ran out, in this case the purple, I just added more purple and just kept going and kept going. And you don't have to do all this pre-planning per se. You can design on the fly. At least that's how I do it. And it makes every step wonderful.
We were like separated at birth.
Okay.
Because I'm telling you, it's like, who cares if you run out? There's something more wonderful waiting at the quilt shop.
Right.
It's true. And I want to just ask a little bit about how are you finding your voice? I mean, there's so many different styles of quilting. What is it that's making you kind of gravitate to what you're doing?
You know, I guess over the time, like you said, you take so many classes and you don't want to necessarily copy, but I think once your artistry finds itself where you really feel comfortable, I like challenges. So I tend to set myself up so I have challenges or constraints, and that in trying to work past that is where I find most of my inspiration. One
of your challenges is your box system. Tell how you put...
Yes, I don't sort my fabric by color. I sort it by the incoming, as I call it. So I have about 30 boxes, and as I use fabric in a box, the incoming goes in there. So that fabric box could have fat quarters, half square triangles in it. It could have half yards and yard cuts. So when I choose to make a quilt, I pick a box at random. And I decide the quilt is in the box.
Already.
And I don't look anywhere else. So if I know I need a background fabric, I have to figure out what has the biggest piece in there because that has to be the background.
How
That's a wonderful challenge. I think that a lot of our...
And then you just back into it by what you have to do and say, okay, that'll work for this, this will work. So you make it do. If you think about cooking soup, you make it do. You cook what's in the refrigerator.
Well, is that how this pineapple quilt was created?
Oh my gosh, yes. The pineapple, as in my teaching circuit, I realized that people hoard stuff like I do, and I hoard stuff that should have been thrown out 20 years ago. So all these things of little bits and pieces that we kept stuffing, like I was going to make a Baltimore album quilt one day, which I'm not. So why do I have all this stuff? And it takes too long to iron it to start. So I wanted to come up with a plan on how can I use this where grain didn't matter, it was easy to cut, and I said, a pineapple quilt, why not? So it's bits and pieces of little bits of nothing that creates a new fabric, it has new life, and you make it what you want it to make. And the border rules. So whatever the border is, that's what colors you see.
Now, I want to share this book because I happen to have a copy of it, and it is a lovely, lovely book that you have self-published, and it's Quilts Unfinished Stories with New Endings. What I really like about the book is that it's, well, first of all, simply beautiful, but it helps tell the story of who we are as quilt makers. And so, like, tell us about this page. I'm going to have you open it up.
Well, this page particularly, first of all, you start with the antique quilt that I got in Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania, and I replaced the border that was on it with a new contemporary piece of fabric. But what's fun about this is that these are pictures out of other people's photo albums, but they're in everybody's photo album. The kids on horses and birthday parties. I swear, anytime you get a whole bunch of kids together, you say, get in a line, you take a photograph.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter where we're from or what country. We have the same photos in our photo albums.
That's the truth.
So that's what I learned about this, and then I wrote a story or a letter, because we wrote letters back then. Like we text now, we write, we wrote letters, but now we text. So I have a letter there that kind of brings that quilt together and makes it feel like home. So you're a part of that quilter's life.
One more thing before we actually go and learn some things from you is that you are a Best of Show quilt winner.
Yes, eons ago it feels like when I first started to get into quilting. I am so competitive, and not because I need to win. Winning is great.
Yes.
Winning is very good. But winning or competing pushes your skill level up, and you can see where you are. And it's not, I need to be better than another quilter. I need to know where I stand on how to be better as a quilter.
And it's that challenge thing that you
yes,
just
it's
spoke
that
about.
challenge. So with my luck, of course, my Best in Show quilt would belong to my mother. So I very seldom get to see it unless I go visit her.
Which is why it's not here today.
That's right. Mom would not let it out of her sight.
So we're having to look at a picture.
Yes.
She wouldn't let you have it.
But it was a challenge quilt, and I was very honored to win Best in Show. Very surprised. One of the key things that helped me get extra points was it's big stitched. And I guess in that particular show, in the year I did it, big stitch wasn't seen a lot as an embellishment for quilts. So I big stitched it. The thread color changed as I went. So it was a lot of fun. It took me about a year to ponder the quilt to get it done.
Well, do you know how happy we are that you're here today?
Oh, thank you. You're so generous, so kind.
And we're looking forward to seeing what you have to share with the TQS audience, and we're going to do that right after this.
Perfect.
Welcome back. I'm really excited that I am hosting this part of the show because my very first quilt was a grandma's flower garden, all done by hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It took you forever, didn't it?
And I've never done another one. And tell us about this one here, because it kind of has that history.
Right. This one here was made by a distant relative that was, I guess, in her 60s when she gave it to me. But she started it, and I finished it for her. So she did all her part by hand, of course, and that was just not in my dictionary. So I went to the machine from there and developed this technique.
Well, you are an engineer, so it's logical.
Yes.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So on this one, this is a big grandma's flower garden in my book, right?
Right, yes,
okay.
I would
so
say.
how big would you say these are? Would you say, do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
My guess is the length of the leg is probably about maybe 2 inches, 1.5 inches is my guess.
All right, but you recommend that you don't go smaller than this.
If you want to do it by machine, I think it's very cumbersome. If you go to the micro mini, you're probably faster doing it by hand because it's only a couple of stitches. But on the machine, I would say the length of the leg, you don't want to go any smaller than 1 inch.
Okay. Now, I have to tell you, cutting these out is horrifying to getting them perfect in my book.
I used an acrylic template.
Okay, I'm going to put this up here so we can see this.
Okay, and there's lots of different acrylic templates, so you don't have to worry about if you can't find this one in particular. So, but what you're going to do is on this particular template, it's made for multiple sizes. So you're going to decide what size you want, and the size we're using today is a 3-inch finished leg. So it tells you, which is right here, it'll tell you what size to cut. And so we're going to cut 3.5-inch strips and then cut our hexagons from that.
Well, show us how that works.
Okay, so on this mat, which is a little revolver, which is kind of fun, this is already pre-cut for 3.5 inches. And you're going to lay this down center. And it's very hard to see on this color, but it's okay. We're going to do the best we can. So we're centered on it, and we're centered on the hexagon. You're going to make the cut to cut the end off. And you're just going to lean into it and cut it. And that was very simple to do. From there, you just turn it around this way.
And of course, you could do it out of a cardboard template like the olden days. But you know what? Come to think of it, as you're cutting here, the QUILT Go system has a die with multiple sizes on it. So that's pretty cool.
And that would be fun. That would be fun.
Be fast.
Right. So then you just chop off the other end. And that's it. And from there, it's called voila. And you could, this is a single layer, but you would layer up maybe 4.
Oh, yes.
Easily.
Yes.
I mean, you know, the more you feel comfortable about doing it, it would be totally up to you. So this is this size. Again, this leg is going to be a 3-inch finish to get to that product.
Okay, so let's see. This is what we're working towards.
That's that circle.
And it's all by machine, everyone. And so you're going to teach me how to do this.
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to, I always make a flower next to me so I know where I'm going, so you don't kind of go randomly. And you're going to just start with the center. You're going to always use the center against one of what I call the petals, right? And so you would take a petal and lay it on top of your center.
Okay, like this.
Yep, and you're going to do that.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do first?
You're going to move to the machine. Put
Yeah,
your
put my glasses on.
I already got mine on.
Okay, so let's move to the machine, and then you can hand me stuff, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Anything about stitch length?
I would use a default.
Okay.
It just seems easy enough.
Okay, so let's hold this up to the camera, and you tell me what I'm going to do.
So what you're going to do is, we're going to use your fun device here, and we're going to start off the block, and you're going to stitch down 1/4 inch seam allowance until you pass the end of the length and stop.
But it's a Y seam.
You're not going to worry about that because that sounds like a mean word already. Just keep going. Don't ask questions on the Y.
Okay. Oh, so there's no Y in this.
There's no Y in the butterfly.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Let me have those little scissors, if you don't mind. I always like to start and finish with a little piece of fabric to keep from those threads gumming up. All right, so show this to the camera here.
So we have our, and we're using dark thread.
Okay.
And to be honest, I always use dark thread when I do this.
Really?
Because you're going to end up unsewing, and and I'm already going blind now. So I want to make this a pleasant process. So I tend to use stuff that I can see.
Okay.
Okay, but you got the whole thing. So the first thing.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. You're doing really good, Alex. We're on a roll here. So from here, we're going to open it up. And I lay it down at this point. And you want to finger press your seam to the right.
Okay.
And I kind of drag mine across, but we got a little cool device here.
Would it be okay to say finger press it to the outside away from the flower center?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
But I think to the right.
Okay.
That's just me. Okay, at this point, we're going to put this back in position where it was. This is the next petal, so we're going to put the next petal down. The next petal goes on top of the center of the flower. And at this point, you're going to sew starting off, and you're going to keep going until you pass that hexagon.
Oh, that makes me nervous. But you're saying, okay, so just go all the way to the edge
and then stop.
Okay.
Okay, and how you know you did it right is because you see a full hexagon on the front and a full hexagon on the reverse.
Okay.
Okay, if that seam is back, you press the seam wrong.
All right.
To the wrong direction.
Okay, Gyleen, I'm trusting you big time here right now.
Yes, and I'm excited.
Okay, I'm not yet. I gotta see this work. Okay, so stop.
Yes. And,
okay.
And cut it.
Okay, I'm gonna use the cutting tool on the Bernina. Actually, that's cool right here.
It really will make this go quicker too.
All right, so we'll get rid of this thing. All right. Okay, I want to show everybody because in my book, if I were teaching Y seams, I'd be just like jumping up and down and having a fit right now.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
because it's oversewn.
That's right. You already oversewed it. So it's like, well, what's the problem now? How are we going to make that flip back?
Okay.
Let me just show you what this other side is going to look like. From the back side, what you will notice is you will have two seams at this point that just crossed.
Okay.
And now you're going to do some unsewing to create the butterfly.
I can do that.
You're going to back out every stitch up to the crosshairs that's in that seam allowance.
All right.
Now, generally, it's...
I want to watch you do this, okay?
Oh, yeah, make me struggle here.
Yeah.
Generally, it's only going to be like about 3 stitches. And if you find it difficult, and I use the back of the seam ripper because you don't want to cut it. You just want to back it out.
Okay. And again, stitch length, I'm not sure if I asked you that.
The stitch length, I generally go to what the default is, maybe 2.5 or, yeah. If you go too low, you'll find it very difficult to do this, and you'll only do it once, and then you will make it longer.
Okay, let's hold this up to the camera and make sure everybody can see it.
I'm going to flip that back so you can kind of see. So here we go. This is the one, and you notice now you got a clean pivot. And everything is out of the seam allowance. Now you see
it's not going to unravel.
No, and that's the beauty of it. Your last stitch you sew is your loose stitch. Now the last stitch left is a tight stitch. And you see these threads? I don't want you to think you're going to cut that. Just magically call that embellishment. Okay. Leave that exactly the where it is.
And you're not magically going to tell me I have to tie them all off.
No, you're not tying it. You're going to leave it. Okay. Now this is the fun part.
All right.
Doesn't that look like a butterfly?
It does.
See, I think this is so cute. This is why it's called the butterfly seam. At this point, from the back, what we're now going to do is take and put her wings together.
Okay.
And you're going to use one pin, and you're going to pin her wings in place.
Okay, let's show everybody. Turn that around. There you go.
So we got one pin right across that seam, way back, because you don't use it. Because this is the seam we're getting ready to sew here.
What you're really doing is the butterfly's tucking its wings away so you don't sew
The
them.
body is inside. And now you have one hexagon flat on another one. If it doesn't lay perfectly flat,
I'm not ready to go to the machine
and you're
yet.
going to sew, start from here, and you're going to stop when it comes to here. As soon as you pass the whole piece, you stop.
Now look how that's a little funky right there. I want to line that up, don't I?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Really?
No, it all works.
Oh, nice.
You have at least 4 sides are biased and 2 sides are straight of grain. And I always say biased is your friend. It'll stretch right back in. Don't worry about it.
I think I'm liking this.
It's a stretch-free approach.
There we go. You know, it's funny you say that because when I teach the Y seam with my stars, people get all flipped out, and it's really quite forgiving. So let's show everybody this.
Okay, so at this point, here's the seam you just sewed. Right, you did a wonderful job too.
Oh, thank you.
So now when you're going to open up the butterfly's wings, you're going to realize they don't open flat because that hexagon is stuck because you just sewed it closed.
Okay, let's really show everybody. So
See?
there's a little tuck here, and that is
Right.
not what you want.
Right, because that's the seam.
Right.
See, that's into your seam allowance. So
Right.
when you open it, now you're going to take your trusty seam ripper and you're going to back out every stitch that keeps.
You could stiletto it too, right?
Yeah, so we could flip on the other side and just knock these out.
The main thing is don't cut the stitch.
Don't cut the stitch. And if you accidentally cut it, you know, nobody died. Just keep going.
Okay.
Okay? All right, they're out. It's not pretty, but they're out.
Okay, I want to do another one.
Okay, all right, this is coming. Now, at this point...
I'm hooked.
You're hooked. At this point, you're going to go ahead and open it. And you will
my
notice
goodness.
that it's absolutely perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better beginning.
It's rare people say that to me. Say it again.
It's absolutely perfect,
Thank you.
Alex. You did a fine job.
I need that.
Little brownie point for you for today. Okay, so there's your perfect butterfly seam. Okay, at this point, you will remember that you only had to press one seam. And you pressed it to the right. Now you're going to press all the seams in that direction to follow it around. And you're going to finger press this. And then sometimes at this point...
I was going to say, wouldn't you really grab a real
yeah,
iron
but I
maybe?
usually finger press it to get the beginning locked, and then I iron. Okay? And
Okay.
what you're doing is this will spin itself right out, if we get this to work.
Oh, I
Magic.
love those crazy little things when they do that. It's so much fun. They're
So when
cute.
you do this, your prize is this incredibly looking tumbling block that's going to be dead center.
Look how cute is that?
And this will be flat. So this is, I started doing a demo without ironing, but you would press it at this point.
Okay.
All right, let's do one more petal and you will have
I think
the
that's
magic.
a good idea.
All right, so I put that back in position always, so I know where I'm going.
Oh, yes.
Take the next petal and lay it down and put that on top. Now when we do this, and you're going to go, well, wait a minute, I'm going to catch that seam.
Yes.
Because I don't have hexagon on hexagon. You notice that? Full hexagon here, half here. You got two choices. Either sew this side first.
Okay, so don't do that.
Or move the seam.
Okay. Well, what do you want?
I would move the seam.
Okay.
So if you're
Maybe
going to
pin it or something.
Yeah, if you're going to move the seam, pin the seam. That's the way to go so you don't lock it because you got to have all these seams free.
Okay, now
There you go. And as soon as you pass the hexagon, you're going to stop.
we're talking all the way from the edge again, too.
Yeah,
Okay.
always, always. Because remember, we want that last stitch you're going to leave in your piece tight.
This is crazy. Okay, I'm going to cut it. Now, was your mama a sewer?
No, my grandmother was the sewer in our family. She had a dress shop. And she wasn't the normal grandmother. She wasn't big on hugs. She was kind of like a little mean. But if you were quiet, you got to hang out in her shop. So I hung out. Okay, so Alex has sewed the next petal on. And if we flip it over, again, you're going to see the two seams cross, right? And what do we say?
Pick it out.
Back it out. So everything in the intersection, you're going to back out. And like I said, your room is going to be a little bit different. Your lighting is going to be better. But if you're struggling seeing, just increase your stitch length.
Oh, I think that's real good. And the other thing is, I really believe in, decent seam rippers. If you get the big old fat ones.
Yeah, you need a good point
Yeah.
to muscle these seams out. And you could be aggressive. Okay, here you go. There's your butterfly again.
Tuck it in.
Put her two wings together. Put one nifty pin to hold it. Hexagon will go right on top of hexagon.
So I'm going to sew that right there.
And you're going to sew that
I
right
think
there.
even I'm learning this. Yeah.
And by the time you make one, you'll have the whole thing mastered.
Okay, this will be my last seam.
Right. And then the rest you do that. You just keep going.
So Grandma was a sewer.
Yes, Grandma was a sewer, and I spent many afternoon in her shop. And she had commercial machines, but lots of fabric, and I got to watch her, because that was the era where women really wore a lot of dresses and went to tea parties.
Right.
So I got to play with organza and satins and
Nice.
velvets, and I truly learned garment sewing just watching from her. And the appreciation, and I had the best, because she had, these people were paying good money. Alex, did we sew the right side? Oh, great. Yes, we did.
Almost wasn't perfect. You're talking all about Grandma.
Okay, so at this point, here we go. See, you got that tuck in again, right?
Right.
That little pleat. And we're going to back that out because this is the center. And if you get in a rhythm that the last one you always back out is against the center, it's easier to remember how this
if
goes.
somebody were taking a workshop from you with this, how many flowers do they get through in a day?
Oh, heck.
A ton?
Yeah. I would say at least 10, maybe.
Wow.
Because they'll get a rhythm. You'll find your own cadence to this. Okay.
Let's show everybody.
Yes. Woohoo.
Oh, loving it. Don't you just think this is great?
It's called Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a finished one.
Yeah, and I'm going to flip this over because it looks cool this way, which I like because you see it's perfect because there was no pivots. But look at the maintenance of the back. I mean, you normally would not think that seam management was important, but it does.
Oh, I believe it is.
You need it on this. And you will see you'll get clockwise, counter, clockwise, and it will rotate around and you get the prizes every time of your little tumbling blocks. So pretend you have lots of these and putting it on my big quilt. When you butt up your flowers on where they're going to go, every one of these will end up being a butterfly seam. So you can sew this, but you can also sew over here. You could sew over here. Just lay out where you want. You can go anywhere you want it.
And yeah, and then quickly show this because it's the same thing.
So if you could master this, which was unpiece, why can't you put together a tumbling block?
That's right.
The diamonds work exactly the same way as the hexagons do. And so if you make 3 of the same tumbling blocks, what you have is 7 sisters. You start to blend to 7 sisters, and this quilt is way over here, but I'll get it for us so we can all see it.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
So this is the same way. It's the exact same technique. Here's your hexagon right there. Here's your second one. Here's your third one. And you sew it together. Ignore that you got 6 points coming together.
Don't even think about that.
Don't even think about it because it's this, just follow the rules of doing the butterfly seam and it all comes together like magic and it's really fun.
This is really fun and we're not going to let Gyleen go anywhere. When she comes back, she's going to teach Ricky another trick up her colorful sleeve. Stick around.
Welcome back to the Quilt Show, everyone. Gyleen, that was really a lot of great information, and everyone's going to eat that right up. But talking about eating things up, you've got some pineapple, which I absolutely love, in your Trash to Treasures Pineapple Quilts book. All right, now tell us a little bit about the book first.
Okay, the book is to make traditional pineapple blocks, and that's where the tradition will end, using trash.
Right, and pineapple blocks often sound scary too, because
Yes,
they have a
we
lot
got
of
new techniques to speed these up. The biggest thing is we're going to clean the clutter in your studio, Ricky, from start to finish.
Oh, you are now my new best friend.
So
because I have the most cluttered studio that there is. But this book, it really kind of, it did something you didn't expect. It kind of went out there.
I started it because I had clutter. I didn't know everybody had clutter. So this thing has gotten so out of control. It is now universal. It has lapped the globe. It's all on Facebook. So if you just Google or search on Trash to Treasure, Pineapple Challenge, you bump into loads of people, 300 plus in 5 continents doing pineapple blocks using just their trash.
Okay.
Now the fun of this is because there's a ruler, of course. I like tools. I'm an engineer by trades. Tools make speed and accuracy happen. So they become what I call no-brainers. Just lay your brain aside and this is ready to rock and roll. It's almost foolproof.
Okay.
Okay? And there's lots of ways to do this, but this to me is the most fastest and efficient. It keeps it fun.
All right.
Now a traditional pineapple block has 8 rounds to it. At least mine have 8 rounds. This is going to be an 8-inch finish. So you have the center. And on this particular block, each color represents a round, so it's easier to see. So that's round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right.
Okay?
Got it.
So that's beginning with our end in mind. Here's the ruler. Now the ruler, the center is a 2.5-inch square. There's a dotted line for 2.5 inches. So in theory, all you need is this to cut everything. So that, and there's a drop cut, so you can cut your 2.5-inch square. Okay, all your bars are going to be 1.5-inch cut. And there's a dotted line for that. Now, if you're truly using scraps, don't worry about grain. It won't affect it. These pieces are so short, you can't stretch them.
That's good.
Right. You just want to iron them probably if you jammed them in like I did. And then get a straight line, and you can cut everything from here.
Right, so the marks that you need are on this ruler.
Everything you need is on the ruler. So let's just start. And we're just going to show this as a hand demo.
Okay.
And I use bright color thread again. In this case, what you really need to keep an eye on is these crosshairs. And there's going to be 4 of them.
Okay, now let's look at that.
Yes, so you got 4 crosshairs. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 crosshairs as you sewed those 4 bars on. And notice, it's not like a log cabin. You don't have to come and fill the corner. You just have to fill the distance.
Yeah, it looks a little sloppy there on the corners, but that's okay.
That's right, but we're going to clean all that up.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to lay it down. On the ruler, you see 45-degree lines, right? And you see a lot of lines that are parallel to each other going in both directions. Those are all 1-inch lines.
Okay.
So the first cut, or trim, let's call it a trim, is going to be using the 45-degree lines.
All right.
On your block, you have cut lines. All cuts are going to be from the back, so you could see cut lines.
Right. Now let me just say, we see the cut line, which is the edge of the fabric.
Right.
And the stitching line, which we're ignoring.
We're ignoring the stitching because sometimes even the best of us don't sew 1/4 inch.
And you said we cut better than we sew.
And we cut better than we sew. So if you're going to wiggle on your 1/4 inch, wiggle to the narrow side. Heavy, you got more issues. If you go narrow, you still can't go wrong. The rule will correct you.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to take your 45-degree lines and lay it to the cut lines of your first block. Right, 45 against the cut lines. Your center line, which is marked on the ruler,
and it says center line,
is going to go through the crosshairs.
Right, where the seams cross.
Now this little stuff that you say looks kind of tacky, this is what we're going to trim off.
Aha.
Okay, and we're just going to trim it away.
That's an aha
And
moment
you're going
there.
to do this, and using a mat that spins helps speed this up a little bit.
I do like the spinning mats, especially for a project
So you're
like
only
this.
looking at these 3 points.
Okay.
Center line goes through crosshairs, outer edge goes against the 45.
All right.
Anything else you see, ignore. This is area of confusion. 3 things, 3 points of contact is all you need for accuracy.
That sounds like another engineer
It
phrase.
is an
3
engineer.
points
That
of
is.
contact is all you need for accuracy.
That is truly how to measure anything in an engineering mind is 3 points of contact. Okay, round 1 done. Voila.
Cool. And you know what? Let's. I want to lay that. I want to show the corners that we don't see a square block. You've got these little blunted ends.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Because it's not going to.
That's right.
Affect
A pineapple
anything.
essentially is an octagon, so it will go to 8 sides.
All
Okay.
right.
The next round. What we're going to do is sew on 4 bars again. Again, notice you didn't have to start here. We just have to cover the edge.
Right, and these are not measured. You're just making sure they're long enough.
That's right,
And they're cut 1.5 inches
correct.
wide.
And you just trim, and I gross trim. And remember, this is trash. So what you put on doesn't matter. You just pick it up and go.
It's the trash that's turning into the
Right?
treasure. Yep.
So now, the first cut, we use the 45s.
Right.
For all cuts after that, you're going to use a 1-inch line. This first line, it says 1 inches. It's got 1s here, and it's 1 inch down.
Okay, so the first time we're using the 45, but from henceforth, we're going to just use the 1
1
inch
inch.
line. All right, show us
Now,
where that's going to go.
And the 1-inch line has got to go against the cut. Now, in this case, this is what we're trimming. The cut underneath of it is this first cut. So happens to be the center square of the block.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm going to lay the ruler on. 1-inch line goes against the cut.
All right, now let's hold this up right now. I want to just slightly hold that up because I want...
Right, and this
There we
is
go.
the 1-inch line against the cut. The center line's got to go through those crosshairs again. This is the trash we're trying to remove, the
And
tails.
I just have a suspicion that some people are going to try to put that 1-inch line over on that seam allowance.
and they're
No.
No, that would be called an error.
Okay, all right.
Okay, 1-inch line goes against the cut. And even though I've made 12 of these, every cut, for some reason, I say that out loud. The 1-inch line goes against the cut. The 1-inch line goes against the cut.
All right.
Once you get it in your head like a mantra, it's a little tougher to do it wrong. Okay?
All right.
And this speeds up. pretty
now, see,
quick.
it's all these little bits that you're pushing off to the side.
Yeah,
that
and
I know exactly where those are going in my studio.
Well,
Right to the floor.
Yeah,
That's
and
where
from
they
the
go.
floor to the trash.
Okay.
I mean, I have people that try to save those, and I try to collect them, because the whole point is to get rid of trash, not produce smaller trash.
That's right.
Okay?
All right.
And so this,
And you're not right now really concerned about the actual fabrics that you're putting on. You're not going, I'm doing darks and I'm doing lights. You're just
No.
making a scrappy
no,
pineapple
I'm just
quilt.
going to make one that I call total mosaic with no rhyme and reason. It just goes on.
And you do have options in the book for different color
Right.
schemes and so forth.
If you would like a more traditional layout, it's there.
Okay.
You know, where you're separating your light trash from your dark trash. You want to flip that over? Okay, so that's round 2 is now on.
All right.
And it's starting to look good.
It is starting
and
to look
you
good.
notice here that you're really seeing this corner be chopped off.
Yes.
Okay, so don't worry about that. Don't panic yet.
I'm not panicking.
Okay,
I'll
good.
only panic if
Shoo.
the ghost comes tapping me on my shoulder
Yes.
right now.
And you'll notice on the back of mine, you see all these little strings? I tend to leave those. I don't know. It's another step.
Yeah, it's in the quilt, right?
Yeah, it's security.
All right.
Okay, now again, let me put this back up. We're going to sew 4 bars on. You're going to keep doing this. This is almost like a mantra. Sew 4 bars and then cut. Now, center line goes against crosshairs. Cut line, 1 inch mark.
And the cut line goes against the 1 inch goes against the cut line.
1 inch goes against the cut. Center line goes against the crosshairs. And you're cutting the tails off, okay?
Okay. On that one, let's just move to the next one.
Okay, 'cause we got that down
we
pat.
got that down. That's
Okay.
going to go to the next one.
Now, this other one, this next piece, we're building up to the 8 rounds. Center, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is round 4 on.
Okay.
We can lay that down. 1 inch line goes against the cut. Center line
line
goes
goes
through
across.
crosshairs. And we're going to just chop off just this one side and move it forward.
Sure. And you know what? Just it's so amazingly, if you just keep doing that same process, like you said, it is the mantra.
It's
you just
very
keep doing the
rote.
same thing. And you do all 4 of those to get those
Right.
around.
Now this one I just added white all the way around just to break it up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so here is center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the 5th round. And it's building. And again, if you can't sew a perfect 1/4 of an inch, sew a less than a 1/4 inch.
As you're doing this, I'm thinking about the people that also use foundation to do pineapple blocks.
Right.
And some people they run in terror from foundation.
Right.
And this system that you've got with
Eliminates that. I
with
mean,
the ruler.
That gives you nice accuracy as well, but you have to remove the paper. So if you're making a queen size quilt, that's a lot of paper to remove.
It is. You're right. So you realize we're going all the way around, right?
Right, we're building it up. Okay, now the fun part.
Now this looks different.
Yes. Now let me show it from the front first.
Okay.
Okay. Now when you get to round 6, you're going to go 6, 7, and 8. Because what you're doing is you're going to build out the corners. Because remember, now we are truly in an octagon. So now we need to build corners out.
So we have a square.
So we have a square. Squares are good.
Let's count them from the center.
Okay, so here we're
going.
going. Here's
So
the
there's
center.
1.
Center is the center.
Center is the center.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then
6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Okay, you sew 6 on.
And does this length matter? The length of
You
these
want
3?
to really cover the seam.
Okay.
Okay, so round 6 is about 6 inches if you really need to know.
Okay.
The next one, round 7, it's going to be really close to that bar. So
All right,
that's
so this
4
reddish
inches.
one is,
That's right.
Right.
You're
okay.
in line with the red. That's about 4 inches if you had to eyeball it.
Right.
8 is about 2 inches.
All right.
Okay, so you put all 3 of those pieces on and no cuts.
No cuts.
Got that?
But
no
you're
cuts.
gonna do that on
all sides, and we're going to
see
show
where
this
you're headed.
next
Yes,
one.
we're going to do that on all 4 corners.
So at this point, it looks like an interesting looking cog thing. You have this trash, and it doesn't look very pretty at this point. So here is the block itself, pre-trimmed. And I'm going to let you do this.
All right.
And what you're going to do is their center square is 2.5 inches, and so is this.
Right.
You're going to center the center square on the center of the block.
And that is on the cut, not on the
That's
stitching.
right. It should fit perfectly. And you're going to trim. Are you in a good position? Trim
I'm in a pretty good position.
all sides.
Now I like to come back a little bit so that because of the
Right.
corner, and then go forward to get the other
Perfect.
side. Then
And you can
I'll
spin it around. And at
around.
any time in the process, if you think you got lost, you can always turn to the back of the block and center the center square on the center of the ruler. And all your parallel lines should be where all your cut lines were.
Wow.
So if you get to round 3 and you get lost, just do that, and it gives you like a quick sanity check.
All right, here's
Now
the big.
let's hope.
Did I do it?
Well,
Did we get it?
I may have needed
we
a new
get it?
blade.
That's all right. I got a little spot right there. I want to do
See,
a little.
now you guys know we're not rehearsed.
Well, now that's all right. Here, let me just do that real quick. This is just typical, though. This is
Yes.
we always, and actually I'm sitting down and I'm not
Yes.
able to press down like
There
I
you
normally
go. Wait a
do.
minute, one more. There you go.
There we go. So in
Now
here.
do the aha.
Ta-da-da-da-da.
Woohoo! Done.
That's great. I actually like that because I didn't realize it was going to have that kind of octagon white that you have going around
Right.
there.
And that just shows on round 5 and 6, I placed white so that you can do something that's a little bit different. So I'm going to have you trim one more so you can see this one, what this looks like.
Okay, and you're always trimming from the back. On everything we've
all
done,
trims
you've always
are
trimmed
from the back.
the
Because remember, the cut line is more accurate than our stitch line.
I'm going to press a little harder this time.
I know, you have to muscle these seams sometimes.
And there's Miss Alex. Miss Alex, this has been amazing.
It's
I
been
mean,
really fun to watch.
I mean, I'm ready to make a pineapple quilt finally because I've kind of avoided it just for, you know, sometimes you just go these, oh, am I really going to make it accurate? And is it, what's
Right,
going
right,
to
right,
happen?
right,
But
right.
this is wonderful.
Okay, but now what about this one with the fun center?
That's one where if you wanted to do a variation, you can take those 2-inch blocks, so 4 of them together make a 4-patch, and then keep going.
Okay.
So that gives you just another alternative, and you would still do all the cuts from the back and center up. But let me show you this one thing that's really cool. The white was in rounds 1, 3, and 5 on that block. We'll put it here.
Okay.
And on this block, it was in rounds 5 and 6. And if you put those together and alternate them, you get a whole different secondary pattern as they
Nice.
flow through.
Nice.
Which you're going to see in the book.
Right,
Lots
so you
of
see
different
various,
options, right?
yes, and you also see on the Facebook, those people, as they do different ones, the pineapple people will load up different colorations so you can see what happens.
Pineapple.
Now you guys got me all hungry when you were talking about pineapple at the top of the show. You love that, huh?
I do love pineapple.
Well, look what I made while you were busy.
Oh,
Pineapple
wow.
chess
Looky
pie.
there. How nice.
Oh, way to
The
go.
recipe is in the book with some other pineapple recipes.
Yes. If you're going to do this as an all-day sew day, you can have pineapples from the top of the hour until bedtime.
Exactly.
It's very, very addictive to do. I've done 12 in a year, and the trash just never ends for some reason.
That is really great.
But we're getting there.
Gyleen, it has been such a pleasure to meet you and have you on the Quilt Show today.
Again, thank you so much for inviting me. I've had a great time.
So much fun. So much fun. Keep that brain working because you're bringing really great stuff to our community.
Thank you.
And we also want to thank the historic On a Ledge Bed and Breakfast, and we want to kind of thank the spirits and the ghost for not messing
behaved.
with...
They
yeah,
behaved.
for not They did mess with us. It's a new day.
Every day. There's always something in Afterset, so stick around.
Gyleen, I want to talk a little bit about your name because it's certainly an unusual name. How'd that come about?
Well, my mother, who is incredibly big on monograms, and she's really big on how your letters fall, her and my father were evidently during the time where she first noticed she was pregnant, decided what my name was going to be because it was going to be an easy process in her mind. She wanted me to be named Erica, which was her favorite female name. My father wanted me to be named after his mother. So for 9 months, the two of them fought this out. So they didn't get to work on the middle name. They just were still fighting out the first name. So during the time of labor, in my mother's most exquisite pain, before the epidural set in, my father pleaded one more time, I want her to be named after my mother. To which my mother says, just get her out and you can do anything you want. It's the fastest my father has ever acted in his entire life. By the time she woke up, I was named Gyleen.
And Gyleen is?
And Gyleen is my grandmother's name, and she was named, her grandfather was the Irish immigrant. So she's named after the town he immigrated from in Ireland. It's in County Cork.
I always think it's interesting how names come about. That's really fun. Yes. Now, another interesting thing about you is you're a dog lover.
Yes, boxers, woohoo, boxers. Yes, and they said, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I went for it. Whatever animal you had or breed that you had as a child is the one you will always gravitate to.
Oh, I would believe
life.
that, yes.
So I had a boxer as an infant that slept underneath my crib named Tags, and so now I am a boxer breeder. Actually, I co-breed. It's the Sharontal name, kennel. So I am the second breeder to that.
I've never known how breeders can do it because don't you get attached to those puppies?
For the 8 weeks, by the time 8 weeks happens, you're so happy they're going to home.
It's like kids
yeah, exactly.
But you're showing these dogs. I mean,
yes,
these are dogs that are going out into the ring, and how many champions? Or
yeah, I have there's about like 6 champions, I think. I have 3 living with me, and there's other ones out at other primary homes where I'm just the co-owner for. And I have a little puppy who's like 15 months. He's a terrible twos, named Louie, out on the circuit now. So we call him Louie sometimes, but he's very bad. A lot of boy to him.
And one, you have a dam that produced several champions?
Yes, which is a huge honor.
It is.
And it's more rare than common. And that means that you had a female, a champion bitch or a non-bitch that produced 4 champions. So we got that honor in 2010. And it was a big thing. It was huge.
It is a big thing.
Especially when you get 3 to the championship and you're looking for that 4th puppy she produced to get them finished.
You're right.
To make it.
Now, speaking of honors, you have, to date, who knows when this airs, you have published how many? Self-published?
5 books to date.
Okay, and they're simply beautiful books.
They are beautiful books.
But this one we talked about earlier, Quilts, Unfinished Stories with New Endings. It's a champion.
Yes, and oh gosh, we were so proud. It took me 2.5 years of my life to produce the quilts for the book and to get the book produced. It's won 2 national awards, and it's kind of nice to go up against the big boys and not have to be beholden to them, to actually know that you can do it and be competitive.
Do you remember the name of the actual award?
The award is the Living Now Award, and it was an award that was bestowed on you for your competition that brought us back to a simpler, calmer way of living, to go green and just to relax in life. So it has a coffee table feel to it, and it was an incredible honor to be chosen as the top.
Well, you know, it's obvious, having spent some time with you today, you mean you're multi-talented, you're a fireball of energy for sure, and it's not a surprise to me with all of the enthusiasm that you have for all of your different endeavors that you also take on the life coach badge.
Yeah, it's and life coaching is just another thing. I mentor at work on my quote, the day job. And it's just a way to help people to somebody has to stay logical because usually you're wrapped up in the emotion. So I'm more of the illogical head that doesn't say how to do it, but listens to your plan to do it and helps you set out a target, a map on how you're going to execute it. I just want people to be happy. And if they're happy quilting, all the better. Right. Because that's my drive. But they need to find peace. It's a very complicated world out there, a lot of responsibility. And I don't know, the more, you think technology comes in, we don't really slow down. We speed up to meet it. Now we're working in milliseconds. And it's hard to catch your breath.
It is. Yeah. It is.
Well, I'm happy.
Yes, thank you for sharing all of the wonderful insights that you have a lot of good life lessons that we've learned today.
And I look forward to bumping into you at markets, festivals, and all that good stuff.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been quite an honor.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.